Greetings, traveler. Have you ever watched a video, perhaps on YouTube, perhaps elsewhere, perhaps one of the ones in this channel, and you thought, all this advice and all these opinions are good, but there's something off about the advice. I don't feel like I can use it right now. I have certainly felt this way when I'm watching advice videos or expert videos or anything on that matter, books, podcasts, all that stuff. And what I want to talk about today is that specific feeling of listening to some very high level advice and feeling that somehow it doesn't apply to you. Why does that happen? And what we can do to improve this. My name is Xanthos. I've been working in the games industry for over 13 years now. And in my career, because I love making games, I love games so much, I always look for ways to do it better. I always look for better development methods and better ways to present a game to improve the experience of a user and so on. And in that journey, I have read books and seen presentations and followed so many channels of our illustrious, very legendary colleagues who have made legendary games. And when they talk about things, they really try to give you their honest advice, right? Imagine somebody who goes through the trouble of writing a whole book on a topic on games and them trying not to give you good information. That makes no sense, right? Of course they want to give you as much good information as possible, but I felt that when I went through these topics, there is something missing. There is something that's preventing me from understanding the lesson of what they're trying to tell me. And I've been wrangling my brain all these years to understand what's missing from this super high level, seemingly extremely valuable advice that's preventing me from really getting the lesson and the point of this. And I think what's missing there and what we don't understand is actually the context. So to give you a very, very simple example, imagine that somebody gives you the advice of, action is important. You must always take action immediately. No matter what you do, like how quickly you take action is super crucial in life. Well, this is some advice. Maybe it's good, maybe it's bad. But when you listen to this, it's really difficult to imagine, where you can use it or where you should use it. So for example, if you're playing chess and you try to use this advice and you don't think about your and you just do the first thing that comes to your mind, probably that's not gonna be the most successful chess strategy, right? Not for traditional chess playing, at least. So I feel that having taken the time to fully develop the context around the advice is as important as the advice itself, or maybe even more important. Because if you take the time to really describe the context, then what you're doing essentially is putting things in context. And this is very, very valuable all by itself. So you may have heard of this strange phenomenon that happens where somebody might be having troubles in their lives or in their projects. They think, everything's so complicated and there's no way forward. But if they were to describe their situation and put all of the information into one paragraph or one piece of text and say to somebody else, and that somebody else would go away and after one day say, there's this situation that this other person is facing, what would you think we should do in that situation? Then it's very easy for that person to give out the right advice, right? So just by putting things in context, the solution and the advice in this case also becomes obvious, and if it's not obvious, just mentioning it becomes super duper valuable. This is also the reason why I always take so much time to explain to you all the context and all the situation around the topics I'm discussing, because if I just say, in this case, do that, based on my experience, that's going to be good, that doesn't really mean anything, right? But for example, if you just got a new graphics card and you don't know how to install it on your motherboard for your computer, and you watch a YouTube video about how to do that, then funny enough, in that YouTube video, you see exactly the context where this advice applies. You see what kind of motherboard it is, you see the angle that the person is trying to slot the card in. If there's cables in the way, they show you how to move them and so on, what to do with the screws and so on. Somehow that type of video gives you exactly the steps you need to take to, in this case, install a graphics card. But when we hear about something more abstract, it's difficult to imagine where to use this advice. So that's something that has been bothering me a lot for all these years, and I know that there's a lot of great books and great material and presentations from amazingly smart people out there that even though they put so much effort into it, somehow I couldn't get the full benefit of this advice. So for material happening from now on, I think putting so much emphasis on the context is a good solution around this advice giving issue. But what can we do about things that are already out there, books that have already been printed and so on? One thing we can do, and one thing I have done to gain more context about that person and about that piece of advice, is just get to know that person more, really. If I have access to that person in real life, absolutely go and ask questions in person. So if it's a famous game creator that has a book or has done a presentation and he happens to be in one of the events I participate in, I absolutely want to talk to him and get the background of what he was trying to say in his book or even in his game, right? The design choices and his philosophy and all that stuff, because I think those are more important for understanding his choices than just knowing about his choices. So learning more about that, learning about or seeing more of the other material that person has published, even unrelated things, somehow understanding that person more gives me a better window into their thoughts and what they were trying to really say with their advice. So little by little form that context around the advice myself to really give value to it and help me understand it and benefit from it more. So those are my thoughts on the topic of advice, especially when it comes to understanding advice from high-level game industry people. If you have an approach that's better for understanding these things, or if you have a better way of giving advice, I would love to know about it. I will definitely read it if you write something down below. So that's for today. Thank you so much for your time. And as always, have fun.